Hi, and welcome to Chess Channel 13. This is Chess. Today I will be giving a soft review of Betrayal at House on the Hill, which is a strategy game by Bruce Glassco. Let me start off by saying I think this game is absolutely crazy and insane, and I love it, and I can't wait to play it again. That being said, let's get started. To try to give you the briefest introduction into the game, it's kind of like if you ever seen House on Haunted Hill. Basically, a team of people or a party of people or whatever come into a house, everything's innocent, you're just exploring everything, and everything is relatively normal. And then as you progressively go through this house, eventually strange things start happening, and eventually the entire party becomes aware of the fact that this mansion that you're exploring is in fact haunted. And each playthrough you can have a totally different haunt and a different set of objectives, and that starts the ending section of the game and then you have to complete your objectives in order to win. That's about the basic concept of the game, and I will move on from here into gameplay. Let's talk about the gameplay now. The first thing I will have to mention are the characters. The characters have 4 stats, 2 physical stats and 2 mental stats, which are speed and might, and then sanity and knowledge respectively. As you progressively go through the game and unlock rooms, and as different occurrences happen, those stats can move up and down, and if any of those stats decrease to the point where they become 0, your character dies. If all the characters are dead, the game ends. The rooms themselves have different occurrences in them. Some rooms have items, and you draw an item card, and most of the time the items will help you, especially later on in the game. There are event cards, and then you have to follow the event. The events are very descriptive and have a storytelling element, and if your party is really good at telling stories and reacting and role-playing, it's got a very good role-playing element that's kind of built in, but it's optional. And then there are omen cards that can be activated, and the omens are also descriptive, also go into a lot of the storytelling and everything else, and are probably the most important part of the game, because it's the omen cards that allow you to progress to the second half of the game, which is there's a haunt check every time a omen card is drawn from a room. And then if any character fails that haunt check at any point in the game, the party finds out that this house is haunted. And then that changes the entire dynamic of the game, and I will cover that right now. Now let's talk about the objectives of the game. There are 2 phases. One, there's an exploratory phase, and that exploratory phase, basically your party members explore room to room, unlocking rooms, building the floors up, and gathering items, experiencing events, and most importantly, dealing with omens. Each omen that is unlocked is a haunt counter. Every haunt counter has to be rolled against on that player's turn, and if that character loses that haunt check, the haunt happens, and it switches from phase 1 to phase 2. Phase 2, the haunt, is the survival mode of the game, and your character has, depending on the haunt, a series of objectives. And without going into too much detail and kind of spoiling it too much, here's a spoiler alert. From my experience of the game, which I've only had a couple playthroughs, either the house, something in the house is turning against the party and attacking the party or something along that line, or it actually becomes kind of a player versus player mode where something happens to one of the players and that player is pitted against the other ones, and then it becomes, either way, it becomes a very strategic part of the game where there's a winning condition and there's a losing condition, and there are actually storytelling modules that go along with it that allow the role-playing storytelling element to have its final closure through the game. And depending on if your party for the most part wins or completely loses, I will say that sometimes it's both. You can win, but not every character in the game will make it out alive, and that's really kind of a cool thing. That's about it to the game, and here's my closing remarks about it. I want to say that as far as everything that I look for in a game, this game pretty much has everything that I look for and does it well. The concept of the game as being a storytelling driven possibility anyway is one thing that I definitely look forward to. I love playing games where you can actually kind of use your imagination and the game kind of nudges you along to get that done. And I think that interactive part of the game, where the game itself is trying to get you to open yourself to that kind of a role-playing element, is very strong. One of the other things is replayability. Replayability is a huge thing for me, and this game, it would take a long time for me to go through every possible scenario and say, okay, I think I've done just about everything I can to this game. That really doesn't have very much more replayability, even though it's still quite fun and exciting. There is that other side of it, though, where no two games are ever going to be alike, and if you play with different friends and different, or just random strangers or whatever, you can get a totally different experience and totally different perspectives, even though the gameplay is virtually the same. And one of the other things about that replayability is difficulty. You can have a very short game, and it can range from easy to impossible, or you can have a long game that goes from easy to impossible, and those two dynamics really kind of work all over the place and give it a lot of replayability as well. And aside from that, there's some other games that I like that were very similar to this game, and one of those is Elder Sign. If you've never played it, is another kind of good game. I'm probably not going to review it. It's very close to this one, but it's a little older, and other people have definitely reviewed it. I haven't seen too many reviews on this game, but I know they're out there, and this is a recent one that I've personally played just now, and I don't know how old the game is, but I will say that right now it's quickly becoming one of my favorites as far as a tabletop game. And outside of that, the one thing that I absolutely like the most about the just inner workings of the game is that sanity stat. That sanity stat really seems to be influenced from the H.P. Lovecraft idea, like Call of Cthulhu, and everything's just going chaos and insane, and I absolutely love that. I do. And it's a dark game, but it's also a game that, for the most part, I would probably let older kids play. There really isn't a lot that I've found so far where, it's really a very high mature level content. You can make it that way, but at the same time, it's kind of in an average in between. I wouldn't let a young kid play it for the simple fact he may have nightmares and never trust the dark again. But at the same time, I think an older kid would be able to understand it and play it, and it's simple enough. And I think, I don't know what the actual age range is on the game as far as guidelines, but I would probably let a teenager play it and get used to it. And if it needs to be toned down a little bit, it might even have a little bit of guidance for doing that. Outside of that, I think this is a great game, and I definitely would give this game 2 thumbs up. Alright, that's about all the time I have without making this thing an extremely long video as it already is, and I will see you all later. Thank you, this is Chess, and have a great day.